Hello and welcome to the sixth episode of The Turnaround. I think it's the sixth episode. I'm Scherzo, musician, reluctant trumpeter and pencil critic. Today we examine the trumpet. It's a member of the brass family with a long history of perverting the musical development of children by distracting them from the guitar. With its shininess and lack of need for electronic amplification, the trumpet's origin can be traced back to early history and even gets mentions in the Bible. It's all through Revelation, which is fitting. If there was ever a noise that will signal the breaking of the seals, that will signal the end of the world, then the trumpet makes it. Very early trumpets are considered by musicologists like me to have evolved from the blowgun. Everybody else thinks differently, but those kinds of people would have you believe that aliens didn't build the pyramids. Early man soon realized that by blowing raspberries with their lips and sticking their blowguns in front of them resulted in a noise that scared small game to death and thus negated the use for making darts and poison and so on. Eventually, the instrument was made of brass and valves were added by someone who probably thought buttons would make it look more legit and less like a shiny engine of death. Some people have very strange ideas. I'm open to debate and defend these claims to the death. Yeah. Show me a musicologist that's going to do that. Yeah. Well, it's easy to say that, I suppose. Yeah, come to think of it, I'm not really willing to defend anything like that to the death. You know? Yeah. It seems a bit extreme. You know? Yeah. A lot of music's been written for the trumpet, so there's an annoyingly varied repertoire moving from the medieval through the Baroque, classical, romantic and modern periods of Western art music. However, it's not until the age of jazz that mortal suffering reached its pinnacle. At the hands and lips of greats such as Louis Armstrong, Dizzy Gillespie, Chet Baker, Miles Davis, and so on, generations of young minds have been robbed of the chance of becoming great guitar players because of the detrimental influence of virtuosic horn players luring them off the cliffs to drown in a river of jazz and bebop like a horde of horn-blowing Pied Pipers who played trumpets, not pipes or flutes or whatever. To see the impact of the trumpet, one only need look at household names such as the aforementioned and then ask the average man on the street about Charlie Christian. Their faces will remain blank or take on a quizzical look because they have no idea who you're talking about. Then say Miles Davis to them and they'll be telling you all about Kind of Blue and what a genius he was, which he was. No one can dispute that, but I would argue that it was an evil genius. But that's me, and my opinion is like everyone else's, and you know what they say about opinions, like the piece of human anatomy and the rest of the expression, they all stink. Opinions. Some people do stink as well, I suppose. Recently, my son approached me and bravely confessed his desire to learn the trumpet. My wife and I thought we were raising him right. At first, I blamed the education system so bloated with arts funding that they think it's all right to have stage bands at school. Then I remembered my son's school has no band of any kind, or cricket or soccer or football teams, or enough space. So I looked at his social circle. He takes after me, so it's more of a social line. I spoke to his best friend's dad, who said his friend does not do much other than play video games and play with my son. No instruments of any kind, so I suppose I can let that slide for now. I honestly can't figure out where he's getting it from. Therefore, I have no choice but to blame the media and demand immediate censorship of all trumpet-related content across all platforms, easily done by conflating it with unpopular public figures. Trumpet, it actually has the name Trump in it as a suffix. Et denotes the feminine. So trumpet. You see where we're going. Anyway, history is full of evil women. Maybe not as many as evil men. I don't know, maybe more. Genghis Khan's wife, maybe. Lizzie Borden. Jada, what's her name? You see what I mean? It's all the same, and it's all in the name. Trumpet equals evil. So given all of these legitimate concerns, I thought it would be appropriate to have a chat with my son. It went a little as follows. You know you can tell me anything, right, Ted?
No, as a father, you rarely take any interest in me, and our relationship is hampered by your preoccupation with playing silly songs on your guitar and drawing really bad celebrity caricatures for the YouTube channel where you have 0 subscribers. You rarely spend time with me, and we have a little in common.
Right, so what I'm hearing is all this trumpet nonsense is your mother's fault.
No, I did not even mention Mum. Just a moment. Don't you like the trumpet? Driving me to lessons is the only time we ever talk. I really like that time, Dad.
Yes, I'll be discussing this with her after dinner tonight. Don't worry, son. The nightmare is over.
So we're not going to trumpet anymore?
When my son finally saw that I can now focus my efforts on discouraging the spread of trumpet playing, that shouldn't be too hard, as it's notoriously difficult to get a consistent and decent sound out of it, let alone master the thing. So your average kid with the social media truncated attention span of approximately 15 seconds will lose interest quick smart. Sadly for my generation and those before, it's too late. The damage is done. Wynton Marsalis, an obvious musical genius, will probably never recover from years of brass abuse. The ageing members of the local PCYC band are lost too. Let's take a moment of silence to remember our loved ones lost to the trumpet. Yeah, that's about enough of that, I think. Then there's the lack of employment prospects for trumpet players. It is hard enough scratching out a living as a real musician, but the uber-competitive nature of the brass job market is scandalous. Try going for first chair at the local high school band. Most music teachers just lock the candidates in a plastic-covered room with a Bowie knife in the middle and dispose of the losers as quietly as possible. Professional outfits like City Symphonies run things like the Thunderdome scene out of Mad Max 3. Yet, even with a heart heavy from my own brush with trumpet, my wife's making me learn with our son to spend time together and so on, I cannot help but feel relieved and grateful that it's not the saxophone. This week's episode was brought to you by the alternative reality album, The Snozman Cometh, and shows what can happen once we have the technology to splice halves of brains together from 2 different donors and insert them into a body to share. Sadly, no reality exists where the Osborne half gained dominance.